while we have never made like a proper editor, and we're still going to kind of keep down that route for various reasons, we still absolutely let players kind of do as they will with things like the default game IIs and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
And we're not, we try to not block out stuff more than necessary. That's kind of our general sense. We actually got a lot of fan feedback. We really kind of took that feedback to heart. People wanted to have kind of a more inclusive choice, more choices that they were able to do. And we really wanted always to give the fans, what they're looking for and give them the ability to feel included. And that was ultimately the drum essentially. So, Mass Effect 3, that concept of verticality is really all about creating a more realistic space. Even as we stand here on the second floor of a hotel, there's a huge sense of verticality we can see over the edge, we can see on the stairs and these kind of things. And that sense of verticality, we really wanted to kind of drive into the game and make people feel that kind of sense of space. We want not only the verticality, but we also wanted to open up spaces in a much bigger way. Bigger vistas, a larger kind of gameplay experience. And that's all, and that kind of actually leads into the next question, which was, around, the kind of the reuse stuff. So, as we've made more and more games, we're getting a lot better at how to create content. In Mass Effect 1, we were still learning, really learning how to work in Unreal. Mass Effect 2, we learned a lot more, and now Mass Effect 3, we're really, our skills are much more honed. We're still learning a ton, but at the end of the day, we're able to actually generate content much more quickly. We're able to actually build levels in a much more efficient way, which lets us which doesn't require us to reuse as often because we can build more faster. We have a very kind of handcrafted approach, so the level designers and the level artists work together to kind of get the basic gameplay elements using boxes. And we call that kind of a white boxing process. And they literally just use boxes and they scatter them out, and literally the levels are quite white, and they drop characters in, and they kind of stuff stuff in. And then the level artists and level designers work together after that to literally handcraft every single object around. And it is quite a lovingly cared process. It's not like we kind of grab this cylinder and plunk it, and then this cylinder plunk it. In that kind of modular home building sense, it's more every object needs to make sense in the context of the world. Mass Effect 1 PC was not as big of a focus. Mass Effect 2 was a bit more. Mass Effect 3 is like a completely integrated focus now, where so one of the areas that I'm responsible for example, is GUIs. So we've done a major, we've gone through all of the GUIs in the game to really ensure that they're, that they feel absolutely PC-centric and not just kind of a port from Xbox. And, many GUIs in ME2 are fine, some are not so much. So just stuff like double click support, scrolling, and a kind of more of a PC feel to it. We've done a ton of work into just making sure that user experience is really solid. And as far as stuff like the download place on Origin, we love the Origin platform. It's delivering a whole bunch of great features for us, and we're just kind of embracing it with open arms. As far as what some of the package, the collector's edition stuff goes, so like the dog in Normandy and stuff like that, I can't get into too many details yet, just because it's still kind of content in progress. I want to make sure that it's all polished up and ready to talk about before we get into the details. So, for the DLC aspects of the game, I can't really get into the specifics because we are still focused so entirely on just getting the game out. But that said, with the fans tend to want more content, and we like delivering it to them. So that said, we'll probably have some DLC in there. The size and scope is still to be determined, and a lot of it's going to be based on feedback from the fans. Hey, do you guys want some more? And if they ask for want some more. And then as far as kind of where that DLC sits, with each Mass Effect game, there's a very slightly different story structure. Where the first game was all about kind of the hero's journey. The second was kind of the Dirty Dozen story. And this one is more of a war story. So in that context, the DLC will make great sense. I can tell you that the end of the game will be on the disc. But within that context, given that there's a bit of a different, the way that we're we're structuring the story is pretty different.
Right.
So it will make good sense why the DLC plugs in where it does. So again, it's all kind of how the delivery happens. So what we're trying to do is give the players as much of the ability to get to the content as fast as possible.
Right.
And not make them feel like they have to kind of go hand-peck each character. So just in response to and I think in that sense, we've learned a lot in Mass Effect 2.
Sure.
And we will make a whole lot of changes in Mass Effect 3 to kind of how we deliver bots and how we deliver side quests. And I really think that we're hitting the nail on the mark really well this time around. And we are definitely bringing back some elements, but I can't get into too many details on it yet, just because it's so closely tied to story and not having those things anymore.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Talking to GameFront.
I appreciate your time.